And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy. That show will give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. It's me, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Where Winds Meet. Now, this is a new game from, huge mega publisher NetEase and China-based developer Everstone Studio. Like a lot of you guys, this one has been on my radar since a big cinematic reveal trailer at I believe a PlayStation State of Play stream from last year. I didn't realize actually what the game is. It's a massive, always online, free-to-play game that has already released and has done well in China last year on PC and mobile. Now it's coming to the rest of the world on PC and PS5, and I've been playing the PC version for a few days now. So yeah, look, NetEase free-to-play game isn't exactly everyone's cup of tea or what we expected with this title. To be completely honest, this certainly isn't my cup of tea. I haven't really loved my time with this game, but I can still see the appeal. There is an audience for this stuff. People who play Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail, they might find something here. It's absolutely massive, and I know there's that overused phrase there's something for everyone, but this game literally has something for everyone. It's incredibly ambitious with just how much it's packed to the gills with stuff. It's part co-op action game, part dungeon crawler, part light MMO, part gacha game, part Ghost of Tsushima or Elden Ring, part giant massive Assassin's Creed RPG. It's got a lot going on. I feel like I'm still only scratching the surface of this one, but let's just get into it. This is an open world adventure game, basically, set in the fantasy style of wuxia. Game starts off and you can choose to play multiplayer or solo. You can change this whenever you want, but for the purpose of this video, as a solo single player gamer, I wanted to see how playable it was that way. Plus, all the servers weren't online yet anyway. Look, the game starts off with a bang of an intro that feels right at home with any big budget AAA cinematic game. Big flashy cutscenes, really cool moments, a cinematic horseback ride with explosions, and it all culminates in an over-the-top boss battle. It makes a really strong impression, showing the game is playing for keeps and might have the production value to compete, but we'll get to that in a bit. From here, you create your own character and you set out into the world. The character creator is pretty in-depth. You can even upload a photo to kind of twist the character creator around that photo, although that feature didn't work for me yet. But there are a lot of options, and I was able to make this kind of cool ancient Chinese warrior mixed with Link. There's a lot to do here, and it's all sliders. Along with that, you can get a good look at some of the skins that are available, and you can just make some truly badass looking characters. This is where it seems like most of the monetization comes in for the free-to-play stuff. There are a lot of cosmetics, and yes, they are pretty tempting. They all look pretty sick. There's also just a lot of currencies, and it's going for all that typical stuff. Now, in terms of stat numbers and the RPG elements for these characters, that all comes in to your equipment. The game has singular skins that you equip, but then beneath that you have your equipment, and essentially here you would equip gauntlets, armor, greaves, and other additional items that add to your overall stats. These don't show up on the character. It's all just about that skin, but that along with equipping weapons is where the variety comes in, because there's a pretty big amount of weapon variety here. The game is very excited, and I appreciate this. The game is very happy to let you experiment and kind of see the breadth of different combat styles, each with their own different movesets, use cases, and then where the MMO light kind of comes in is the fact that some characters can be DPS focused, some can be tank focused, and if you're rolling with a crew, you can kind of lean into that. And the combat so far, overall, is all right. It looks pretty cool. It's got some incredibly cool and flashy animations that are really satisfying when you get a good flow going with a good weapon, when you unlock some more abilities. When it's firing on all cylinders, it's pretty good. For a while, and you can see it in the gameplay here, it did take me a while to get the hang of it because I was trying to play it like a fast, chaotic, frenetic, like a Sekiro or a Ninja Gaiden or something like that, but you kind of got to slow it down a little bit because it does kind of have a little bit of that give and take, push-pull, like attack exchange style thing, but with a parry button. The parry timing I found to be tough, but not tough in a satisfying way, more of in like a squishy, unsatisfying, unpredictable way. Also, I did just find the controls a little finicky sometimes with button inputs and stuff just not working. That was extremely disappointing and sometimes really frustrating. What the game does also have in terms of difficulty is multiple modes. When you're playing single player, you can switch between all these different difficulty levels, as well as enable kind of an auto parry, which makes parrying into a quick time event, which actually looks and feels pretty good. There's a bit more to it. It's a bit resource based. It's not just like a win button, but the different options here are good for combat that overall is somewhat satisfying. The camera angle is pitched slightly downward, like from looking up, and it's kind of annoying. That's probably my biggest issue with it. Otherwise, it's like some decent combat. It can get a little bit repetitive at times, but the further you play, the more abilities you unlock, and there are a lot. The game lets you experiment and mix and match tons of different abilities for all different use cases. As you unlock these abilities, which you can learn from observing the world, or just grinding and earning, or picking up in various ways, these can be equipped to, if you're playing on controller, you hold one trigger and a press of a face button, and also you can hold the other trigger and have a full suite of face buttons there as well. So you can stack like up to like 8 different types of abilities. These abilities can be anything from like Tai Chi moves to big AoE attacks, or dashing forward, or a grappling hook pull. Some of these abilities also work outside of combat for like traversal and stuff. I think the boss battles are where the combat is oftentimes at its best, but also at its worst. It's at its best because fighting a character 101 lets you really focus on your moveset, and the boss battles often have like an over-the-top cinematic nature. I've encountered a few that have like different phases and an arena can transform, but then that's also the problem because it feels like it's like heavily going for some sort of Dark Souls or Elden Ring style thing, but it falls a little short in the presentation and also just the tightness of execution, but that's really a nitpick. Again, I think the combat is decent, but this game is massive. The open world is absolutely huge. The developers promise, if you're playing like, you know, the main single player adventure, like 150 hours of content or something like that, which of course I haven't seen all that. I'm not gonna like pretend I have. And then if you want to play with friends, you can link up and essentially do co-op stuff or do the equivalent of raids and even some PvP. Yeah, like I said, this game like is trying to have everything. Is the combat that good that I'm gonna want to spend 150 hours doing this stuff? For me personally, no. But there is a lot to the world. The world, so far from my experience, is gorgeous and densely packed. It looks really good. Also, worth pointing out, my PC download was like 111 gigs, something crazy like that. But visually, the game is a looker for the most part. It has some spots where it looks really bad, but when it looks good, it looks damn good. Some of these environments, when you're exploring the open world and when the light hits just right, the game can be absolutely gorgeous. I've come across mountains, I've come across like lush forests, I've come across bamboo forests where I could cut down all the bamboo, and I've come across some really dense towns with bustling NPCs all doing unique and interesting things, and tons of characters begging for your attention for side quests. I've only been able to sample so many side quests, but my hit rate has been about 50%. Some of them were pretty good, and some of them just felt like a big waste of time and just kind of phoned in. And I think that kind of goes to like one of the bigger issues with this game, is that because there is so much crammed in here, the quality level and production value level is kind of like a roller coaster. Sometimes it's really incredible, like the opening of the game that literally just feels like I'm playing some like PS5 cinematic game, and then other points where like I'm looking at an NPC whose face barely works doing the most boring side quest ever. The production quality problem and like how it yo-yos also comes down to translation issues as well, and lip syncing issues where characters will say completely different things that don't even match the subtitles, or their mouths won't even open for entire sequences. Sometimes the audio won't play at all, or it will play over another character's audio, so it can feel really messy and undercooked and not quite ready for prime time. And it can be really jarring when you're dealing with NPCs like that, and then you trigger a cutscene that is fully voiced and has a ton of style and direction to it. But when you're out on this world, on a mount, riding around, running and jumping, exploring, there's always stuff to find. The game throws loot at you like crazy. A lot of it just feels like resources that you can use to craft updates or little little currencies. It doesn't feel like it matters much, but you do need it all, so it is at least meaningful. It's just not always exciting when you crack open a glowing treasure chest, but you're always grinding for something, right? Like you're trying to find a better armor, or you have the armor you have and you're trying to dump resources into it to upgrade it. Same goes for all the weapons and learning certain abilities, and also leveling up and unlocking skill points that you can dump into a skill tree to learn more kind of overall abilities and bonuses. And again, there's opportunity to do all this and gain all of this just because the game is so densely packed with stuff. Every 5 feet, it feels like there's something to engage with, some weird side quest or some mini game. NPCs can be befriended, they can be given gifts. Some NPCs even have this weird like AI chatbot interaction system, which feels undercooked. It didn't really work for me. Not that this really appeals to me anyway, but that's there. There's fishing. There's like a really fun drinking mini game. There's arenas you can gauge in, things you can bet on. And I just found myself constantly stumbling upon new systems, making me say, again, what I said from the start, just like this game is packed to the gills with stuff for all different types of players. Down to the point where there's even like a healing mechanic mini game, which sounds like a simple little thing, but essentially it's almost like a turn-based card battler. Early on in a game, I found a goose on the side of the road that was sick. And in typical RPG fashion, the game presented me with an option like, hey, give this goose your healing item to heal it. So yes, I clicked yes to give it the item. And then I was not prepared for what happened next. And then that triggered this surprisingly in-depth card battling system that was a lot to wrap my head around in a moment, and I completely screwed it up, and I lost the healing mini game, and I failed to heal the goose, and then the goose turned into a big overpowered Dark Souls style boss that just like killed me instantly. That's kind of the quirky stuff I like. That's the stuff that just, you come across it and you're like, this game is so weird and amazing. It has all this shit in it. It's nuts. So there's so much to engage with constantly, like rhythm games, NPC stuff, hidden areas, dungeons you can just stumble across, side quests, a crap ton of main quests. It's kind of like a candy store and you can just overdose on all this. I will say, you probably noticed I haven't mentioned the story that much so far because it's done nothing for me. It's kind of all over the place. It has some good moments and cutscenes, but the connective tissue didn't really work for me. That being said, there were a couple of moments where I was like, oh, this is actually pretty interesting. But moment to moment, I don't really care. But I think it's honestly because I'm distracted by all the other stuff going on in this game. It can be absolutely overwhelming. From the amount of systems to the amount of things that pop up when you bring up the menus, like the amount of things you have to manage and micromanage with your gear, the amount of on-screen icons and things, like you can tone them down in the options somewhat, but there's just always so much visually going on, mechanically going on. It's messy. But some people love this stuff. Look, I could be totally crazy. For me, this game feels like it has a massive budget and that enables it to be a jack of all trades, but it doesn't really have any soul. Other than the endorphin rush, like number going up, moment to moment interactions, I didn't really have a ton of fun playing through this. That's why I said this game like wasn't quite for me, but maybe if you play it with friends and you engage in, you know, the massive amount of multiplayer options here, maybe you'll have more fun with it. I will say, if you're someone who just doesn't have a lot of money, you mostly play free-to-play games, if you download this one and you can tolerate all the free-to-play microtransaction bullshit, there is an impressive amount of content here, a fun open world to explore, some okay combat. And yeah, I think just the amount offered here, I think this game is going to have some legs. I think it is going to find an audience, even if I am not necessarily that audience. This is pretty impressive with the amount of stuff going on, but some of those technical issues I mentioned earlier, that stuff needs to get ironed out. And of course, we need to see how the end game goes, because after like quite a few hours into this, it did already start to feel grindy, like it was starting to creep its head up. So we'll have to see how that goes in the long run, but just first impressions, Where Winds Meet so far is a weirdly ambitious, over-the-top game that is certainly flawed and certainly not for every type of hardcore gaming audience, but it's got enough there that I think it's going to please some people. It's crazy. Honestly, I don't think I was prepared for just how much this game had in it. So those are some first impressions. This is a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, cons, personal opinion. Now I want to hear yours down in the comments. Maybe you've already experienced this game one way or another. Maybe you've signed up for it. Maybe you're ready for it. Maybe you're someone who's looking for some sort of light MMO RPG and haven't had anything to wet your whistle in a while. If Where Winds Meet is for you, let's talk about it. I'd love to know what you're thinking, whether you like it, whether you hate it. Hit us up in the comments. If you like this video and seeing some gameplay helped you out, clicking the like button really helps us out. We'd appreciate that. And if you're new, consider subscribing, maybe hitting that notification bell, because we put out new videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.